Okay.
Get it?
Yeah, okay. All right, welcome everybody, this big crowd. And I have a little lapel mic, and I can tell there's sound coming out, so I think we're good. Okay, well, this is our last week, so how can we, I don't know how we can tie everything up, but I did want to talk about the loss of center, which is kind of like what you were talking about. And my wife went away for the weekend, so she went up to see my daughter with her sister. They both went up on the Greyhound bus, spent the weekend in New York, went to the play. My daughter's play is Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Had a great time, came back. She's an understudy, but on Saturday the understudy was, the star was sick or out, so my daughter got to perform 2 shows. So that's what she does, is understudy. So anyway, so it was a great weekend, and I was home alone, and when you're home alone, you're kind of like in your center. I mean, because there's nobody challenging it, you know. So anyway, so my wife comes home, and my sister stayed over, and I know I've shared my ongoing dramas, you know, and they're my source of humor, and gives me something to talk about. So anyway, this morning we're having breakfast, and my sister-in-law was having breakfast, and somebody else was there, and she was going to leave. So we're having breakfast, and they had scrambled eggs, and I cooked some bacon on the deck, and then we had set it up in the living room for 4 people. So I'm in the kitchen cleaning up, and Tilly said, "Would you bring me the box of vitamins?" So I thought she wanted to take some vitamins. So I looked around, and there was a box of her vitamins and medicines, that, you know, one of these little daily things with the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I took it in, and she said, "No, that's not it. I don't want a box of vitamins." So I went back. Now I'm going through, I know there's a box of vitamins, but I can't see any box of vitamins, right? So and I also, my mindfulness kicks in, so I know I'm in a drama. You know, here we go again, right? Mind's going frivolous. There's a box, but I can't see it. But it's in the pantry. So I look in the pantry, and there's a box of she gets these things at Costco, but it's packs of diabetes vitamins. So they're already put together. And there was that box, and I grabbed it, and then I thought, no, she wants a box of vitamins. That's diabetes stuff. So now I went back into the room, and now I'm, you know, okay. And so suddenly she comes into the room and walks into the pantry, grabs the diabetes box, and goes out.
Were you in the pantry?
I looked in there.
You saw the diabetes.
I saw it, but then I reached for it, and then I second thought myself, said, no, she asked for a box of vitamins, and that's the diabetes stuff. If she'd said, get a box to get the diabetes, which is usually what she'll say, get the diabetes vitamins, it would have been a clear and certain idea. But there was ambiguity in there. Get the box of vitamins. So in the ambiguity means it's either, in other words, there's several choices here, all of which are equal in value, so you don't know which one to pick. Or, in this case, there's a box of vitamins there, but you don't see it. So you know there's one there, and the commandment is to get it, but you don't see it. So then in my case, what this does is it creates a, you know, when the heart fibrillates, and people will usually boom hit it because it's like it's lost its beat, you know, bam, you know, boom, boom, boom. So you shock it back into its beat. So when the mind fibrillates, it's because it's caught in an ambiguity. Can't make a choice. That is experienced as a loss of center. Because when I can't make a decision, I lose my center, and I have to ask somebody else to choose for me. I need a savior. In this case, my wife. So it was funny to me. So I was thinking, I'm home alone. I'm in my center. So she comes home and reestablishes her center. This is just to remind me of who's the boss. You see?
I just have one comment.
What?
That this is going to download to her computer.
Oh, that's all right. It won't stay on there. I don't care. I mean, she knows I use her as my talks. So, no. I mean, we've been married 55 years, so we know what we do to each other. This is not news. But anyway, mindfulness, now the practice of mindfulness is having a background awareness while you're caught in a drama like that. I mean, you're in the drama, and these dramas usually come from our history, our complexes and neurotic thing, our psychological makeup, right? So, I mean, this is our personality, and we're kind of like have to live with it. But the question is whether we're unconscious in it or whether we are conscious in it. So mindfulness, to get into how we're going to work with this next week more, is that mindfulness is remaining awake while you're asleep. Right? So I'm asleep in the little game. See, now this is a mutual, in marriages, all the games we play are mutually agreed upon. Nope, there's no innocent and guilty figure, So she will give me an ambiguous instruction, and I will use the ambiguity to lose my center that refers back to her. So this can, if you're not conscious of this, it can create a great deal of upset and even divorce, or it creates murder. I mean, when you go to, because people lose losing face or losing center is a devastating experience. But this practice kind of like welcomes it, so you can practice being awake in the unconscious habit. See, so all habits are unconscious. And so we're like, in relationship and in our life, we're kind of like robots in the sense that we're driven by our past habits, the way we do things and our attitudes, and the whole we are, And so when a habit kicks in, it's determined by the past, you see, and so we're kind of like driven by that. And then when we come out of it might be a little drama or something. When we come out, we say, "What in the hell was that?" Or there I did it again, or I got to fix that. So now we try to don't do it again, but they always come back. This has been my probably the primary habit, or that has been like the category of my life, or this, because it started with my father, who would not give, who maintained his center to the point where if I challenged it, he would be in my face, livid, screaming at me, not, because this when somebody refuses to surrender the center, we have a Donald Trump. So let's move over to Donald Trump. We'll try to tie some things together here. So did you notice the recent thing on now? It's all over the news. I guess it was this weekend, but Trump had a news conference up in New Hampshire, reporters asking questions, and a Hispanic reporter who runs a Spanish news program, Ramos, was going to challenge him on his immigration policy. So he was, when the clip starts, I think the show is, the thing is beginning, and Raymond stands up and says, I have a question, I have a question. And Trump says, if I didn't call on you, sit down. And he points to somebody else. And so Ramus is over there. I have a right to have a question. So then he doesn't ask a question. He challenges him on his wall theory. Now, you say you're going to build a wall or deport 11 million people, all that. And Trump is saying, sit down. I didn't call on you. Get out. And this. So finally, the bodyguard comes over and takes him out. And the guy's saying, I have the right to ask a question. I have the right to ask a question. Out. So then the other journalists will say, well, why did you just throw a journalist out for asking a question? And then Trump says, well, he can come back if he wants to. I don't have any problem with that. So finally, towards the, the thing, Ramus comes back, and he asks Trump the question, and they have a little thing, and that's the end of it. So what happened? Well, now Bernie Sanders some time ago was doing a talk in Seattle or somewhere, and some Black Lives Matter activists came up and took the mic away and got in his face and actually took over, and he let them do it. And then finally they just closed down the show and he left. And Trump said, now, by the way, I'm not an advocate for Trump. But Trump said, commenting on that, he said, nobody will ever take my mic away. I would never allow that to happen. Of course, if he had thrown the Black Lives Matter people out, that would have been, people, Black Lives Matter screaming, the whole thing would have been basically a disaster. So Sanders handled it correctly, and Trump handled his correctly. Because I was looking at this. So people are going to take sides now where Trump was right to throw him out, or the journalist was right to challenge Trump. That's what they do. That was his job, So that's an ambiguous situation. You see? So, but the truth of it was Trump did not give up his center. So, because the guy was actually challenging him, putting him on the defensive, which is the loss of center. If you're defending yourself, now you're defending yourself, you've already given up your center. So he didn't give him an inch. But then he could say, I'm generous, come on back in. But he came back in, and Trump still maintained his center because his authority had been established. You see. So it was a win-win. I think this is what Trump calls the art of the deal. So the art of the deal is you make a deal where both sides win. You see? So he made a deal in that he won, he didn't lose his center, and Ramus won because he got his 10 minutes of interview time. So both won, both saved face. And I thought this was really interesting because I think this is why Trump is gaining so much popularity, because this is a nonverbal demonstration of how you how you don't give up the center. And his fans, I mean his not fans, but his congregation are mostly white males who feel they have lost their center. They have lost the center to their jobs. They lost the center to women. They lost the center to black people. They're kind of like, they feel disempowered, and Trump is basically showing them, hook up with me, and I'll restore your center through me. So he will vicariously restore a person's sense of lost center and disempowerment. So I think this is, really a fascinating phenomena, because Trump also has Fox News in a double bind. See, so Fox News created Trump, because I was looking at this the other day. Before he became a candidate, he was all over the place. He lived on Fox News, constantly, So then he becomes a candidate, and the first thing he does, he's challenged by Megyn Kelly, challenge his center. And so he restores his center by making her lose face, or pointing to her feminine weakness. put it, in other words, he put her down. And so then Fox, now Fox had a choice. Double bind Fox News is generating tremendous viewership, and a large 25% of their viewers are Trump supporters. And if you remember, when the debate started, the first question that was asked to all the candidates is there anyone here who will not be loyal to the party if they don't get elected? In other words, are you loyal to the Republican Party if you don't win the nomination? And everybody raised their hand. Yes, I'm loyal. Trump didn't raise his hand. So he kept his power, because people not knowing whether he'll bolt or not is power. So he kept his cards. I'm not going to tell you if I'm going to bolt or not. So if you're good to me, I'll stay. If you're not good to me, I'll go start a third party and take my cards with me. It's like somebody in Mad Men. It's like leaving an advertising agency and taking all the accounts. So that's what happened. So when they buy the company, it's been hollowed out. They left with the accounts. So so he's playing everybody like. Did you ever watch House of Cards?
I know what it is now.
Right.
I started watching Mad Men because you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I told my wife that while you're gone, I won't watch Mad Men. So I started watching House of Cards, which is on Netflix. House of Cards is about and Errol came up with this word. We were talking about this coming in here. He's a stealth sinner. In other words, this is a story about Francis Underwood, who is the majority whip in Congress. And the whip is the guy who whips all the votes together. He gets things done. Well, he is a master. He always maintains center, which means in control, but he's a stealth sinner in that he makes other people feel they're coming up with the idea. So even if the president or whatever, he's a master manipulator, in that he appears to be deferring to the others, to the power of others, but he's doing it in such a way that he's getting them to choose what he wants, with them thinking they're choosing it. So he's always maintaining his center. See, because the center is the source of decisions or power, the decider, which is what Bush called himself. I'm the decider. So both of these, so this character in House of Cards manipulates everything to maintain his center of power, and but this happens in our everyday mind, because basically the little thing about the where's the box of vitamins was like a little mini drama of how the game is played, where particularly in relationships where the center can shift position. See, some relationships, there's only one, the man or either it's a matriarch or a patriarch. One or the other, because in a relationship, you can only have one center. Right? So, a relationship is one, if it's a relationship, but it's two. So if you go to the store, or if you have a friendship with somebody, you're not in a relationship. There's no competition for the center, because you're just friends, or you're a clerk in the store, it's a business relationship or whatever. But if you enter into a relationship, then there has to be a decision maker. Otherwise I want to go this way and I want to go this way. So it splits. So if it's a relationship, particularly marriages, that kind of relationship, they have to act in unison, have to come to single decision, you know. So how do you get to the one? You see, who is the decider, you see. So traditionally in like Christian idea of marriage is that and most cultures have been, you know, in relationship, the male is the center and the female defers to the male who is making decisions about the outside world. So this is, the center is shared because then the wife makes decisions about the inside world. So this is usually how it works out. So the male works, he's the foreign relation decider for the outside world, and the wife is the decision maker for the inside world. So there you have shared center. So a conflict will come in if you compete for the center in one of these territories. So if the wife competes for the decision of what to do in the outer world, like where are we going to move? We're going to go to California or stay here, or whatever. On the inside, you get in conflict, which is where I get in conflicts, is because on the inside is where are you going to put the sofa? You know, that kind of stuff, you know, so decisions on the inside. And these can get flipped, where the matriarch or centered relationship would be the woman is making more money or has the stronger job, so she's making decisions outside world, and the husband is taking care of the kids and is making decisions on the inside world. So these, you know, so a healthy marriage is one where the center is shipping back, but whenever they come into conflict, you get because there can only be one. The commandment is let there be one. You know, so there can only be one center at a time. You can't have two centers simultaneously. Otherwise you get split the atom. So, with violence. That's an interesting thing. When they split the atom, they created the atomic bomb. You know, and so it's.
That I'm okay with. Christ is my center. See, that's my center.
What, I'm sorry, what?
Christ.
Yes, okay,
center.
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. When the false idol comes in, when the center becomes a form, that is got boundaries to it, or a definition, or a location in space and time. Like, we'll take Islam and Zionism. In other words, the holy center of Islam is the Hajj in Mecca, that big obelisk, you know. So that is a physical center that you would want to protect, you know, because if that goes down, your center goes. So that would be a false idol. Now, how can Christ be a false idol? Well, if Christ is a historical, in other words, if the existence of Christ exists on the historical interpretation of facts. In other words, it's like, I know George Washington existed because he has a history and people wrote about him, and in other words, he was, a physical person. Form. Okay, so if our God is purely some form, then it can't be. It's got to be this and not that. In other words, it's limited to a form that is defined. This also limits us. So when we're in relationship to an idea of God that exists only because it's not other gods. In other words, people get in, I'm struggling here. I'm struggling, bear with me, because I don't want to step on any toes here. The problem, Christianity gets in the problem where let there be one. All right, so my God is the one. So that means Islam, paganism, all the other gods, right? So I'm a Trump God. My God is like Trump. And everyone else is, all the other gods are losers. Right? So I would define that as a god of a false idol. Because I've made that God the one at the expense of everything else. Right? So that makes me very defensive about defending my Trump God. Because if anybody attacks that God, tries to take away his center, I've got to go to war, have a religious war, to protect my God from somebody taking away the mic. You see? And now I'm at conflict with everybody else who doesn't see my God as the one, because there can only be one. Let there be one. So this is the way the Bible presents the Hebrew revelation was. So Yahweh says there's only no God but one, nothing second to me. Go wipe out all those other gods. So there's only one, you see. This is we're evolving through to a higher understanding. This is an older way of understanding our God as being located in space and time. So like with Israel, the temple was God was in the temple. The Romans got pissed at Israel because they challenged them. The Romans said there's only one sinner and it's the emperor. And the Jews said, no, our God is the sinner, is the one, and we're not going to bow to yours. And they said, get off the stage, you're not taking my mic. So they kicked the Jews out of the auditorium. Right? So they destroyed the temple. Now where is God? He was in the temple, now he's gone. Right? So what happened with the Jews was that they got spread out to all the other countries in the diaspora, and they made their God portable. Right? So the temple's gone. So now if I'm in Russia, if I'm in France, I'm in England, I'm in Spain, North Africa, wherever I am, God is with me because he's portable. So he's not located in any one particular place that can be wiped out. You see? So Christianity has modeled itself after this paradigm. So Jesus comes along and he changes the paradigm. So is Jesus everywhere we go, or is Jesus located somewhere? So is Jesus like the God of the Jews, where wherever you live, Jesus is there, or is Jesus just in a particular place? Like in a temple, or in a book, or in a definition. You see, so we could make Jesus safe by putting him into an interpretation of the Bible that makes my interpretation of the Bible the one. See, so now I've made my theology or my belief my belief now. See the difference between Judaism and Christianity is that Judaism is an ethnic religion. You have to be born a Jew to be a Jew. You don't have to believe anything. You just be born a Jew. Christianity, you're not born a Christian, you have to believe. See the difference? So to be a Christian, you have to believe a belief system. That gives you membership to Christianity. So what we have today is that we have a whole lot of different beliefs, each one saying, I'm the one. And they're all multiplying. It's like the Tower of Babylon. Now everybody's got the belief that wants to be number one. So now they're at war with all the other ones, trying to squash them down, trying to trump them out. I got the mic, I got the one, get off the stage. So everybody's saying, but I believe is the one. I got the right, my belief,
Well, what about just a mutual respect without wars? Then you're not at war with the other.
Yeah, certainly. I'm just looking at the extremes here. Yeah, I'm just looking at, what we see manifesting around, right? So what I'm saying is that a belief can become a false idol. In the sense that my belief, which is my perspective, I claim to be the one belief that explains everything. And then everyone else says, no, my belief explains everything. So we're trying to get it down to the one thing that explains everything, the one God, the one belief that explains everything, by eliminating everyone else. They're all losers, you see.
That's why I think that what she said, which I, in the past, have believed
Yeah.
in Christian religion, but I don't anymore. But when over here in the faith part, I'm okay no matter what. I believe that's probably what you get from.
All right, well, let's move over to this. Now, this is the way I see this. So when I move into this, people get confused because I say I have faith that Jesus is the one. But that's a faith in a belief, my belief. See, beliefs can change or threatened. Or I can see something different. I switch and become a Hindu, or I don't know. This is not anchored in the cosmos. You see, a belief is a mental configuration that I have chosen to invest in. But it has nothing to say about the chooser. Who is it that chooses to believe this? See, belief is belief in this, but who is it that believes? Who is it that believes is not the this that's the belief. That's just an idea. Who is the believer, you see? So that takes, if you ask that question, that comes back over to here now, because faith says I'm okay no matter what I believe. Whether I believe this or that, whether I want to be a Christian or want to be an atheist, I'm okay. And whatever I believe then is going to integrate me, like the magnet with the things, you see, then that will integrate the world around. The people I'm with, the people I'm attracted to, the way I do, it all begins to integrate, So the place where how do I integrate Buddhism and Buddha and Jesus and all this, everything, is that when you come down to this fundamental, not belief, but knowing that I'm okay, no matter whether I get the box of vitamins or not, no matter where my wife is the center or I'm the center, I am underneath this game, I'm okay. And the okay comes from awareness. or mindfulness. Okay? Awareness is awareness is seeing. Awareness is not what you see. Awareness is the seeing. If I were a Christian, I would say then, awareness is Christ. So no matter what happens to me, I am aware, and that is the awakened Christ. The problem with Christianity is that it says there's only one Christ, right? And he was born in a historical time. No one else can be Christ. Just one, just happened once in all eternity. And it's totally different from all human beings. And yet, at the same time, Jesus was a historical person, but Jesus was God. So now this is an ambiguous situation, right? You got man and God totally opposites as one. Now, so the commandment is, let there be one. Now, which is Jesus? Is he a man, a human being, or is he a God? Choose. Right? So this creates the whole history of religion. You got some people, well, he was a great teacher. He was a prophet, human being. Others say, no, he was God himself. You see? God himself is, totally God, but how can he be totally man and totally God at the same time, you see? So this creates a...
I'm lucky I wasn't smart enough in church to follow all that, so
Right. Yeah, no, you see, this creates...
It was confusing.
Well, all religions come out of this confusion. If you go this way, then I believe he's totally God, then my belief is the one, and you all are losers.
And who's the man sitting on the throne up there
That's
with
what
the
I
law?
want to know.
Yeah, okay, so where, so then you got God and Jesus, and it's mythology. It's story. It's story. So he explains it all in story form, you see. So if we want to move back past this, where is the center? If this is the center, then where am I? You see, now if I believe this is the center, then I'm just a little planet out here orbiting around this thing, you see. So now I have to maintain this belief in order to keep myself in alignment with the center. And if I start to doubt it, whoa, the whole thing, this is why doubt is such a fearful thing in organized religions, is because doubt can make the whole house of cards come down. One card out and boom, I lose my center. So Buddhism says, well, the problem is there is no such thing as a center. There is no center. There is no...
Who were the Buddhists to say that?
Well, it wasn't the Buddhist, but Buddha was not a Buddhist.
Yeah, Jesus wasn't.
And he wasn't a Christian.
Right.
But Buddha was not a... Buddha just means the awakened one.
Well, Christ's message just comes with
Right.
Christianity.
Yeah.
Because it was
All
his
right.
message.
Yeah, so the true, yeah, so Buddha and Jesus were both teachers, and they were teaching a way through this confusion, but each of us has to discover the way through, because you can't get through by just believing it. So you have to go through a crucifixion. You have to go through a trial. So that little thing you're going through there, you could say would be a trial that has been presented to you, just like Indiana Jones, who's got a treasure map and he's got to find the treasure. You've got to get through this trial, not relying on somebody's authority, but relying on your own faith and gut and thing. So that's what an adventure is. There's no certainty there. So how do you become a religious person when there's no certainty? Well, the problem is that as long as you have a belief, there is a underlying doubt that the belief may be a little shaky. So this is good. In Zen Buddhism, it calls this the great doubt. If there is any, in other words, if we depend upon an external center or a belief center, there's a certain amount of insecurity in that. Because it's not grounded in my faith of my center that is not dependent upon external form. That's not clear.
When you said Christ is your center, what did you mean?
I don't depend on myself to have the answers. I ask Christ to guide me.
Yeah, okay. All right. Now, all right. This gets into what we've been talking. Glad you brought that up. In the practice of what we've been talking about for the last 15 weeks, when you come to an ambiguous situation in which you don't know what the certainty is, you got things, I don't know. So if you first of all, the first noble truth is I see here's suffering, confused. That's the first, this is it, I'm in it, can't blame anybody for it. And then I say, let me look at it, let me just let it be. I don't want to avoid it, I don't want to go to an expert to get me out, I'll go, whatever. It's painful, the uncertainty is painful, let me just be awake and aware in it, which is what I was doing during the vitamin box. In other words, I was going through the tribulation of the mind, looking for a vitamin box that wasn't there, you see, and I was aware of the loss of center while I was losing it. But you see, the awareness was my center. You see, loss of center is a fragmentation. It's the broken bread, it's the crucifixion. When they break the bread for the crucifixion, they destroy the center. Break the bread up into little wafers. It's fragmented. The world is fragmented, broken into bits. I don't know what's going on. See, I'm broken, the world's broken, we're wounded. Then we take the wafer, right, and drink the wine. So we drink the blood of Christ and take the wafer of Christ. And through my restored center, I make the bread whole. So there's a transubstantiation going on where the broken becomes whole through my faith or participation in this. This is a ritual, but it's a metaphor. So when you're confronted with the threat on your property, that is a fragmentation. You're sitting there, everything is peaceful, la-di-da. Suddenly now you're under threat. The bread's broken. How do you restore the center? Your center has been threatened. So I go to look for the box of vitamins, you see, and I can't find it because the instructions are ambiguous, or I perceive them as being ambiguous. Someone else said it's not ambiguous. You know, I perceive ambiguity, I create a loss of center. I see my whole life pattern right there, what I've been doing my whole life. But I see it from the center, from my awareness. So my center has shifted from my physical form and the stuff I do in form to awareness, which is formless. See, awareness has no form because it's aware of form. But awareness is awake awareness. So it has it's not in a form. We're conditioned to think that my awareness is consciousness and it depends upon my brain. So if the brain goes, the brain creates my consciousness. Well, that is a materialistic, let there be one material. So matter is the one and consciousness is created by matter or the brain, and therefore when that goes, you're gone. Well, this teaching is that no, there is brains and there is physical form, but there is also awareness. And they exist together like a car and a road. If you have a car but no road, the car can't go anywhere. If you have a road but no cars, there's no purpose in the road. So they go together, but they're different. You see, so awareness is our you could say the whole the cosmos is aware, but it's only aware that it's aware in human brains. See, so the whole cosmos is integrated and has it's awake, but it only knows it's awake because it evolved brains. So we're kind of like the cosmos evolving a brain so it could be conscious of itself. But this is a leap we have to make. Each of us has to go through this sun door of awakening where we are free from our attachments to form and false idols and the belief that when my body goes, I go. You see, so awareness doesn't go anywhere. When Ramana Maharishi died, a famous saint, he was dying and his disciple says, "Where are you going to go, Master?" And he said, "There's no place to go." I'm awake and I'm aware, and death doesn't stop that. The form drops off, but awareness doesn't drop off. So the whole goal of this practice is to become aware of your eternal life before you in life. See, Christianity says, well, you can't, don't say that, you're not Jesus, you got to go to, you got to hook up with him and after go to heaven and then you'll, in other words, Christianity defers, not all of it, but I mean, what it does is, well, you'll be eternal life, you go to after death, Buddhism says, well, you realize it now. So we have to, and this is all in the scriptures, you have to die before you can live, or you have to get reborn before you can, the second birth. That second birth, on one level, is just a new belief system. In this level, it is a birth from one level of consciousness to another, where your awareness is awake, that you're still in time, you're still in a body, you still got history, you still got families, you're still running around doing fights and whatever. But there is a dimension that has been activated that transcends this field that is always awake and aware and okay. See, so there's this fundamental awakening of okayness, or in yoga it's called Satchidananda, knowing, being, and bliss. The knower, I know, the being is what I know, and the bliss of these two coming together. So, this practice is got many levels. It's got many doors, but when Buddha said, "I only teach one thing," that's liberation from suffering. That's it. So for 45 years, that's all he taught. The ending of suffering, the suffering that he proclaims an end to, is the suffering of identification with form and false idols and the loss of center. So when your true center awakens, and then Buddhism says that's Buddha nature, Christianity, that's Christ nature. So Christ nature and Buddha nature are our true center, but it has to be awakened. It's potential. So all this teaching, all the stuff you've been sitting through here, basically is looking at this teaching as a stimulator or activator to awaken your timeless and immortal center. Because you wouldn't be here if it wasn't resonating with it. You see, the mere fact that you're sitting here is the fact that something is resonating. Don't know what, but something resonates, so I'll listen, you see. And that's the way this teaching works. Same with Trump. I mean, people don't care what he says, they just resonate with what he says. Ah. Well, it's 3:30. Well, listen, thank you for hanging in there. Hope to see you next time. I'm going to hope it'll be, I'm sure we'll take off. I don't know where it goes because this is not a scripted class in the sense that I come with a lesson plan. And it's a discovery for me in that I was talking to Errol, when I'm here in a classroom like this, I'm in my center. So no matter what comes up, I stay centered with it. Nobody has yet been able to throw me off, with the center. So whoa, blah, blah, blah. Then I get self-conscious, and then I don't know what I'm doing here, and all that. That's a loss of sense. So, embarrassed, and then then you get stage struck, and then you get in the sweats, and then you quit. I'm not coming back here again. And so far, nobody's been able to throw me off.
So it's this Monday, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.